Buenos días, como presidente de Nueva Economía Forum, tengo...
Alimera, good morning, everyone. As the president of Nueva Economía Forum, I had the pleasure to introducing a new online meeting supported by ASISA and the technical support by Microsoft, broadcasted with simultaneous interpretation through Teams and YouTube, both in English and in Spanish. The direct links can be found in our website, nuevaeconomiaforum.org. According to our European vocation, we'd like to put our focus of attention into Europe, facing the challenges of after COVID, rethinking its future, and recuperating the protagonism that it deserves in the new geopolitics globally. Today, we have the satisfaction and pleasure of having the Prime Minister of Greece, Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, and the President of the the Spanish Popular Party, Pablo Casado, can be found and Mr. Antonio López-Istúriz from the Popular Party, European Popular Party, and the Vice President of the European Commission will connect with us, Mr. Margaritis Esquinas. Good morning, everyone. And I would like to kindly ask you to be brief and direct in your interventions. First of all, I would like to introduce Mr. Pablo Casado. How are you, Mr. Casado? José Luis, good morning and thank you for your invitation. I will start saying something in Greek, which will not be translated. Well, whatever he said, dear Kyriakos, dear Prime Minister, we hope to see you very soon in Spain. We knew that you would be coming, but COVID changed our lives. Dear Kyriakos, dear Prime Minister.
With us, your vision is especially valuable nowadays. Spain is suffering a difficult time since the health pandemic, and it is joined by the economic crisis and also the populist pandemic. Our democracy is being destabilized from within the government itself, and that is something that has already happened in the past in your country. More than ever, Spain and Europe needs leaders like you.
Tiempo que nosotros su visión es muy participante, muy importante para nosotros. España está sufriendo esta pandemia y bueno, la crisis económica y la pandemia populista y popular.
Querido Tono, secretario general y queridos amigos del Foro Nueva
Economía. Tono and dear friends from Forum Nueva Economía. Kyriakos Mitsotakis is part of a group of politicians that shaped up the contemporary Greece. And he is, together with Sebastian Kurz, Julika Barazka, the new generation of leaders that are opening a new front in the European Popular Party and that are going to shape up the new plan in Europe. It was not easy for him. In the year 2015, the extreme left Syriza's groups took Alexis Tsipras and Varoufakis to power, radicalized the public opinion, downgraded the institutions, and attacked the productive economy, reaching an anti-European feeling amongst its citizens to cover their incompetence. And they even asked for a no to a rescue, but that was very needed. The country was about to break to a breakdown. Kyriakos Mitsotakis took the relay with Nova Demokratia in January 2016 in the middle of a very difficult economic situation in a big political and social confrontation. His party was going through a great loss of credibility because of the management of the crisis and other issues. For him, it would have been easy to fall into demagogy and having accepted populist discourse or support the other government as many others did. But Mitsotakis decided to be the alternative, and when with moderation and good proposals, he convinced Greeks that they would only get out of crisis with and through reforms in the European Union. What Draghi is doing in Italy, or what we are trying to propose for the Spanish government. Kyriakos had to face the ultra-right movement with Golden Sunrise until it was illegalized, and then with the Greek Solution Party that is sharing with Vox a seat in the European Parliament. Kyriakos Mitsotakis maintained his clear north, and in the year 2019 achieved the absolute majority, win against a left radical party and the populist extreme right, and gathering around him and Nueva Demokratia, people that know that freedom are the corners of a virtuous triangle. This roadmap should inspire politics in Spain, gathering all the center parties to be a winning solution, trying to offer a solution against a government that is just trying to cover its incompetence. This was a problem in the past, but now Greek with Mitsotakis has become a key actor in Brussels, proposing measures like the certificates of vaccination that would help recuperate tourism in countries such as Spain, the control of illegal immigration, with no radicalism, no demagogy, or the defense of other chapters in the recovery funds for the country in the south of Europe. In this issue, well, using votes is something intelligent. Kyriakos decided that Nobel Prize of Economy, Christopher Pisarides, is the person who will shape up the new plan of economy in Greece. Here we have a group of Mr. Sanchez to distribute funds as he pleases. This, well, led him to take a country in bankruptcy, turning it into a very solid country. After 2 years of efforts, Kyriakos was able to reconcile society, improving the pandemic levels, the economic levels, controlling the level of death to a minimum, having a very good coordinated vaccination plan. And he was also able to make Greek citizens to recuperate their faith in Europe and in their own institutions. It's a difficult relationship in Greece that Greece has with Turkey. And I would like to state that the Popular Party is supporting with no, in a seamless way, the Greek government with respect to their land and sea sovereignty areas together with the resources that Greek citizens deserve. Let me finish by just mentioning the difficult attacks that we have lived in several cities in Spain. First of all, I would like to support all the law enforcement agencies, National Police, Guardia Civil, Mossos d'Esquadra, and local police to make the state of law be preserved and maintain citizens' safety. We also ask Pedro Sanchez to eliminate the ministers that are justifying violence and to also avoid Cale Borroca. And government thirdly has to act together and jointly as the law states. And if the president cannot stop the vice president, he's becoming the co-responsible of whatever is happening. And let me just finish by saying and going back to my gratitude to Mr. Mitsotakis and Commissioner Skinas and the Secretary General, Mr. Tono López-Istúriz. Very soon you will have another colleague of the Popular Party seated in the Council of Europe. Thank you very much. Mr. Prime Minister, you have the floor.
Well, Pablo, thank you very much for your kind words. It's always a pleasure to be able to compare notes with you. You're also a young leader who has taken over a traditional center-right party. So in that sense, there is a lot of common basis for common experiences that I think are mutually helpful. Let me also say good morning to Margaritis Skinas, whose impeccable Spanish connections I could never hope to emulate. And of course, to my good friend Tono, again, congratulate him for the fantastic work he has done and he's doing at our European, at the level of our European political family. First of all, let me say that indeed it has been a very interesting ride over the past 5 years. I was elected leader of Nea Dimokratia in January 2016 after suffering a significant defeat. My commitment was from the very beginning to renew the party, to infuse it with new personnel, new ideas, and to fight populism without adopting a populist rhetoric. We placed a lot of emphasis on common sense, technocratic solutions, some of them non-ideological, practical solutions to people's problems. That was our platform with which we won the elections in July 2019. We managed to secure an absolute majority in Parliament. We managed to occupy what we call the center space of the Greek political spectrum, while at the same time also eliminating the extreme right from parliament, which I think was a victory for Greek democracy. Golden Dawn is no longer represented in the Greek parliament. And I think this was an important message that came out of Greece at a time when the voices of the extreme are on the rise in many European countries. Over the past 18 months, we had to deal, as you pointed out, Pablo, with numerous crises. We had to face the pandemic, as every other European country had, and the economic aftermath of essentially shutting down our economic activity. I think we've done reasonably well on that level. We're one of the best performing countries in terms of dealing with the pandemic. But at the same time, we also made sure that we used the opportunity presented by the pandemic as a springboard to implement important structural reforms that would make our economy more competitive, create more jobs, and reduce income inequality. So although much of my time is spent in crisis management mode, I made sure that we never stopped the important reforms that were part of our electoral platform. How to lower taxes, how to attract investment, how do you make the public administration more efficient, how you digitize the state, how do you move towards a green transition. And now we have an additional tool at our disposal, which is the Recovery and Resilience Fund. Very, very important step taken by the European Union to be able to borrow at the supranational level and give the member states the opportunity to use grants to drive through important investments and reforms. We have already submitted our plan to the Commission. It has been very well received by the European institutions. We have used, as you mentioned, a Nobel laureate, Christoforos Pissaridis, to come up with a master plan for the transformation of the Greek economy, which has served as a non-partisan point of reference, because I never wanted to give the impression that these reforms are simply implemented by our party. And I think this report has proven to be very helpful because it has honestly looked at our deficiencies and proposed bold solutions. So now we have the funds available from the Recovery and Resilience Facility. They will start to be dispersed to Greece starting in 2021. And I'm quite optimistic that once we leave the pandemic behind us, which I expect to happen at some point during the spring or the summer of 2021, the recovery is going to be fast. There are common themes that we need to discuss as countries of the South. I'm very happy that Mario Draghi, the recovery, is also pushing Italy now in the direction of ambitious. They will start to be reforms dispersed because there are some common threads starting in 2021. All the countries of the South, and that is why more coordination is necessary. You pointed out one initiative which I took, which I think is very important for all our countries, for Greece, for Spain, for Italy, and that is this concept of a vaccine. I'm very happy that is a relatively simple idea that at the European level, we have a common vaccine certificate that will allow travel and make it easier for people who have been vaccinated to travel without going through the additional restrictions that we currently impose. I think this is absolutely critical for our countries as we hope to have a much better tourism season than we had last year. And I'm pretty sure that at the end, the European Commission will move in that direction. But even if it doesn't, member states will move in that direction because they want to give their citizens the opportunity to have proof of vaccination, which they can then provide to other European countries so as to facilitate travel. So there are lots of issues we can talk about that are of common interest. How do we protect our natural environment? How do we make better use of renewable energy, as we are countries which are blessed with sun and wind, but also how do we cooperate at the geopolitical level? Thank you for your support in our ongoing dispute with Turkey. We very much count on European support when it comes to resolving issues with our neighboring country. And I've made it very clear at the level of the Council that the differences between Greece and Turkey are also, there are differences which affect the European Union as a whole. And I think this point has been made very, very clearly by the Council, but I also want to highlight in particular the support of the EPP and all the member parties, because they've been very, very vocal in supporting Greece against Turkish aggression. I do hope that we will leave the tension of 2020 behind us. We have already started exploratory talks with Turkey. We've invited them for the second round. They haven't responded yet, but I do hope that they will respond so that we can discuss in good faith what is the main difference we have with Turkey, which is the delimitation of our maritime zones in the Aegean and in the Eastern Mediterranean. I think if you trust international law and the law of the seas, and if you have a fundamental faith and respect in the concept of good neighbor relationship, there is no issue that cannot be resolved. So let me stop here. Let me thank you again, Pablo, and also NEF Economic Forum for the invitation to participate in this discussion. And I wish you, as a sister party, best of luck in your endeavors. And I'm, happy to come to Spain, as soon as possible and as soon as the pandemic will allow it.
Gracias, señor primer ministro. Todos los
Thank you,
europeos.
Mr. Prime Minister. All Europeans have high hopes in the program of reconstruction and resilience of the European Union Next Generation. Considering this unprecedented effort, I would like to give now the floor to the Secretary General of the Popular Party, the European Popular Party, and Euro member of the Parliament, Mr. Antonio López-Istúriz. Good morning. Good morning. And thank you very much for your kind invitation and for having the Prime Minister with us. It's an excellent example of top management of the European Popular Party. Now we have a generation of young leaders in the government and the opposition that are being created in our groups. Sebastian Kurz in Austria, Diego Baraka in Ireland, or Pablo Casado in Spain. We have good players, and as we did in the year 1999, the European Popular Party and most European institutions will manage all crises, achieving European coordination.
Prime Minister of Greece, you know how proud I am after these years that we have shared together in good and bad times, in that very tough opposition to Tsipras, the government of Tsipras in the past. I feel always so proud of Nea Demokratia, my good friends, that they fought it so hard and now obtaining the correct results for the Greek economy, and especially, your management of the pandemic. But one thing that's so important for us in Spain, your example in how you're dealing also with the touristic question. I guess, and I invite you, Kyriakos, to give us also a little bit of oversight over this question. This is also for Spain very important, and you have been very successful in this. A mi amigo Margarita Esquinas.
To my good friend Margarita Esquinas, he speaks better Spanish than many of us, because his mother tongue, the Greek, is the classic basis of our Castilian Spanish. And to our president of the Spanish European Popular Party, Mr. Pablo Casado, we are working hard, and he's been part of this summit together with Kyriakos Mitsotakis and the leaders that I mentioned before on the funds of this Next Generation Fund that is coming to Spain, but from rationale, from sensitivity, considering all European opinions. We are sometimes, or we are accused of being slow, but we are safe. The problem is that you have a government that is not that's not offering this security, unlike Greece, unlike the Greek government. As Mr. Pablo Casado said, they hire a Nobel laureate to manage the economic recuperation plan. Well, comparisons in Spain won't resist this level of excellence, but we have to work hard so that this fund is implemented correctly. And I am convinced, I am totally convinced, as with members of the European regional and local popular parties, they want to work coordinated with the government so that these funds reach everyone. But the government says no, they won't share the information, denying one of the principles of the funds, which is collaboration with political groups in the national parliament. Well, these are issues that I have to clarify during this meeting, and I would like I will appreciate your opinions, because I think that these funds are an absolute priority as accepted by the Spanish society. But it's not only a matter of applauses and praises. We have to facilitate these funds that are so important to many people, to many entrepreneurs, so many freelancers. They come to see Pablo Casado, me, and many others. They ask us what to do and how to do things. It's up to the government to explain it. The European Commission, and I am sure that Margaritis will be able to say something about it, is preparing very good plans, not only based on this recuperation and resilience mechanism, but rather the mobilization of structural funds, sure funds that guaranteed stability in the well, this missile plan in Spain. But Europe has to undertake this communication, and Spanish citizens have to be aware of the fact how important it is to be part of this very excellent club. Thank you so much. We have in this event of Nueva Economía Forum, as we said, the Vice President of the European Commission and responsible person of the protection of the European lifestyle, Greek commissioner that in Spain we consider one of us. Mr. Iskinas, good morning.
As President Casado spoke in Greek, I think it's appropriate that I speak in Spanish. Es un honor y un placer.
It's a great honor and a true pleasure to be here with you and to join my Prime Minister in this meeting with the Spanish public opinion. Kyriakos is a friend of Spain, but he is also the only Prime Minister of the European Popular Party that is in a government in a southern European country. And what he thinks, what he does, is very pertinent for Spain. But it's not only from a southern perspective. I've seen him working in the different summits. I think he's one of the very few southerners that has a place in all the chairs and all the tables of the European governments. He was with the French Prime Minister, with the German chancellors, and he is also with people from different scopes in political spectrum. So the message is that the southerners that succeed because they are appreciated because of what they represent, not just because they come from the south. They are appreciated because of what they do and what they think. The protagonist today is the Prime Minister, but José Luis asked me to make 3 telegraphic comments about the 3 topics of interest that are closely connected to my vice presidency: vaccinations on the one hand, the recuperation fund, and migration policies. Telegraphically, vaccination, the European program of vaccination is in full development, at full throttle. We will ensure vaccination of all Europeans. Briefly, we have purchased 2.6 billion doses for everyone. We have absorbed 25% of global production. We have used 33 million doses in all member states, and we have vaccinated 24 million people. It's well, something that will be improved. The European strategy was the only way to do things. Those that attacked it, well, yes, were to rush into it, because this game will be judged at the end, not at the beginning of the process. And we have the trust and the confidence that this will be so. Secondly, on the Resilience and Recuperation Fund, it's a unique historical opportunity. Never ever Europe had at its reach this type of tool.
No al principio del proceso. Y tenemos aquí la confianza que así será.
It is a moment to ensure that these funds will allow us to altogether get out of the crisis symmetrically, and at the same time, we'll be able to finance and relaunch not only the green and digital transitions, but also our companies, SMEs that have the greatest needs more than ever to get out of this obstacle. But we said thousands of times, there will not be checks, open checks and investor with no reforms, and there will not be easy money available. This is a collective effort that we will have to altogether make. And finally, Mr. Vice President, we will talk about this later so that we have a common thread in all the interventions. COVID-19 evidence deficiency in the management in the pandemic in practically all European countries, and we would like to know your evaluation and what are the lessons that we have to obtain from the errors and the European strategy of vaccination that the Vice President mentioned, and the behavior of labs that evidenced or put into evidence the European institutions. Mr. Mitsotakis, you have the floor. Thank you.
Well, first of all, let me make a comment on the vaccine strategy of the European Union. I represent a medium-sized European country, and I feel much more comfortable when the European Union is negotiating on my behalf compared to what I had to go through if I had to negotiate on my own to compete against much bigger countries to ensure enough vaccines. So the fundamental principle that the European Union purchases vaccines at the European level and then distributes the vaccines per capita to all member states, regardless of whether they're rich or poor, large or small, northern countries versus southern countries, is in principle correct. It was the right approach to take. Of course, when you have 27 member states, it's always more complicated than if you have just one country negotiating. And I think the President of the Commission was very bold in recognizing that there were some delays. And I think that steps have been put in place to make sure that we remedy whatever complications had arisen and that we have access to the new vaccines as quickly as possible. We in Greece have vaccinated first dose more than 6% of our population. We could easily ramp up vaccinations much faster, but we are short of the necessary vaccines in order to be able to do that. But we do expect to get more vaccines, in March, and many more vaccines in April and in May, where I think we will have probably more vaccines than we will need at some point, because as Margaritis pointed out, we've purchased a multiple of the vaccines that will eventually be used just to be safe. So just to set the record straight in terms of what Europe has done and where we can all sort of improve our efficiency. The fundamental decision was absolutely the correct decision, and I think a very good example of European solidarity in practice. Let me just touch upon an issue that Margaritis raised regarding the nature of the Recovery and Resilience Fund. Margaritis used the word, I got the English translation right, easy money. There will be no easy money. And we're fully aware of that, and we accept that in principle. And this is the right approach. No one is going to give us money to just blank checks that will go into a budget to be spent as we deem. Our plan needs to be compliant with the country-specific recommendations. It needs to focus on reforms and investments. And it needs to be in line with the important priorities that the Commission has set at the European level, the green transition and the digital transformation. So these are non-negotiable principles, and we all need to be fully aware of what we can and what we cannot do with this money. Now, we perfectly accept this because these are our priorities from the very beginning. We want to support the green transition. We have already used the pandemic as an opportunity to drive through a transformative digital agenda in order to make the state more efficient. And we want to use the money to support companies, especially medium-sized companies, to invest more and to create more jobs, while at the same time making sure that we preserve social solidarity and reduce income inequality. So the principles are very, very clear, and the rules have been set, and everyone needs to comply. And I also happen to believe that these are the correct rules in order to make sure that this new pot of money, which was not on the table a year ago, and it's very important to point this out, is used in a way that improves the competitiveness of all European economies. One point that Tono raised on the issue of vaccines and our strategy regarding the opening of tourism. We want people to travel safely. So the first thing that we need to do is to make sure that we contain the pandemic in our own countries. We want people to feel safe that when they come to Greece, to Spain, to Portugal, to Italy, they will obviously not be coming into a hot zone. I think this is going to happen come spring and certainly come summer as we vaccinate a significant proportion of the population. And as the summer kicks in, we know that there is a clear element of seasonality to this virus. So then the second question is, how do we facilitate travel? Vaccine certificates are very, very important, but also how do we have put in place the right protocols to make sure that people can actually travel safely? So we have very strict protocols regarding our tourism industry, what activities are offered, what activities may possibly not be offered this summer. How do we protect workers in our hospitality sector? And how we can also do additional testing over and above the testing that will be done before people actually enter a plane. Last year, we used, we employed the services of some of our top data scientists, and we put in place a very sophisticated algorithm that allowed us to do much more accurate predictive testing for everyone who actually, not for everyone, but for a significant sample of the people who actually came into Greece. And this gave us a very, very good idea of where the problems were. Last summer, we didn't have access to rapid tests, and of course, there were no vaccines. And we did manage to open up relatively safely. We saw no real spikes connected to tourism. So I think we need to take those lessons and implement them this year. Tourism is critical for our economies, especially for the economies of the southern countries, and that is why I think an approach at the European level is necessary. I received yesterday a response by the President of the Commission regarding my request to discuss the vaccine certificate. It is, I think, very positive that we acknowledge that the work will be done in order to make sure that we use this as a stage one simply for medical purposes. And then I think we need to discuss at the political level, once we do all the infrastructure work, whether we can roll it out also to facilitate travel. Obviously, this is a discussion that Tono will be much more relevant, in April, May, June, when a significant percentage of the European population will be vaccinated, but we should have no doubt the pressure will be put by our clients on their governments, because people in Denmark or in Germany or in Poland will want to travel, and they will push their governments and also push the Commission to make travel easier. And we've said very, very clearly, if you are vaccinated and if we have proof of vaccination, you can enter the country without significant restrictions, without a quarantine, and you can enjoy your holidays in Greece and then return safely to your country of origin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prime Minister. Mr. López-Istúriz, Secretary General of the European Popular Party.
Can I just say one word about Tono, which I didn't say before? Tono was present at every single Nea Demokratia Congress. And I at a time when we're in a position and things were difficult, He was always there. He was always a big supporter. Antonio, we never forget our friends, and you have an open invitation to our next Congress, which will take place in December. Now we have the advantage of being in government, but we are very, very grateful for all the support you provided us when we were in the opposition.
Señor López-Istúriz.
Mr. López-Istúriz, I think your microphone is muted. Not yet. No, I had muted myself in the benefit of the connection.
Of course, I will be there. I always appreciate being with my friends from Nea Demokratia and with you especially. Let me tell you that in Greece, you have a plan for tourism since months ago. Even in Denmark, they have a plan for tourism. Unfortunately, it's still not the case here. But what I wanted to say also to you and to Greek friends that might be connected, that the European People's Party has supported also you in the very tough question with Turkey. You have had a strong stand that has led now to and will lead to this negotiation table. Congratulations for that. And I am always saying to all the EPP governments and our members of our political family to support our friends, not only in Greece, but also in Cyprus, with our dear friend Nikos Anastasiades, against the aggressions that your country suffered in the past. And as members of the European Union, this was intolerable. And I'm congratulating also the fact that you are ready to sit and waiting for the Turks, but that's something that will come soon, I'm sure. It has to be the case. Sobre el tema de las vacunaciones.
On vaccinations, the European Union at the beginning reacted, the way it usually reacts in this type of crisis, with a lack of coordination. And by the way, healthcare is not one of the competences of the European Union. It was Michel Barnier, the negotiator-in-chief of the Brexit from the European Popular Party, who proposed some years ago as a commissioner the creation of an agency with full competences to be able to control pandemics in the future. You know who voted against? The United Kingdom. That's why we do not have that coordination, but with the message sent by the Vice President of the Commission, Mr. Margaritis Esquinas, we achieved that coordination. Please imagine if we were not in the European Union and Spain had to compete in prices to purchase different elements with France, Germany, or Italy. Buying vaccinations would have been a difficult task, but the European Union guarantees distribution these 2.6 billion doses. And not only that, it allowed the green corridors so that Spanish trucks supply all supermarkets in the first stage of the pandemic, where Spain very strangely closed our borders with France. There was a lack of supply in the European Union. Well, that was ended thanks to the fact that all ministers came to Brussels to become coordinated. This is the story that is repeated over and over. It happened with the successive economic crisis. And ultimately, all these crises lead us to finally understand that all together will go somewhere. Separate, we do not have in this global context, we have no opportunity against China, India, emerging powers. These are realities that we have to accept from a European perspective. And, say that it's now about time to become coordinated with this within the South. This is something that I needed to say. We have to work amongst Greece, Portugal, Spain, Italy. We all have to have a clear approach, not only of the South, but also of our southern neighbors. And I am very happy to say that the European Commission has included new plans to work with our southern neighbors. And this is going to benefit greatly our countries. The conference on the future of Europe needs to be unblocked. Obviously, we will have to observe the questions such as the role of the European Union in the new geopolitical table, opening the Biden era after Brexit, with NATO that is under discussion with Russia, generating difficulties. Mr. Borrell, Mr. Mitsotakis, Mr. Prime Minister, what are the essential axes of this debate, according to your opinion? Thank you.
Sorry, I lost you somewhere in the translation.
Le he perdido en una parte de...
Was that a question for me?
Yes, it was, sir.
Can you repeat it, please? Because I'm not sure I fully understood what the translation was saying. Yeah.
Estábamos hablando de la
We were
conferencia.
speaking about the conference that needs to be held about the future of Europe, and we also were summarizing the difficulties that the European Union is facing in the geopolitical table, opening the new Biden stage after Brexit, with NATO under discussion and Russia creating difficulties with Mr. Borrell and very aggressive China. What should be, according to your opinion, the essential axis of this debate? Thank you.
Well, I'm looking forward to the debate on the future of Europe, and I think the conference provides an appropriate forum for having discussions which I think are long overdue. You raised a series of important geopolitical questions regarding the positioning of Europe in a changing world landscape. And this is a topic which we need to address head on, also taking into consideration the willingness of the Commission, if I were to use Ursula von der Leyen's words, to be a geopolitical Commission, i.e. not just to be an economic power, but also a power that expresses its strength in geopolitical terms. The new Biden administration provides us with an opportunity to recalibrate our relationships with the United States. This doesn't necessarily mean that we will see eye to eye with the US on all fronts, but I certainly welcome certain aspects of the US foreign policy as they have been expressed. First, the belief and the commitment to multilateral institutions. And second, the return of the United States to the Paris climate accord, because it is impossible to address climate change without having all the big emitters on board. It is not always easy, we know, at the level of the European Union to agree amongst 27 countries when we take important geopolitical decisions. I've had first-hand experience of this because it did take me some time and effort to explain and convince the European Council why, for example, the relationship with Turkey is an issue which should be of concern not just to Greece and Cyprus, but also to the European Union as a whole. So we always need to take into consideration that at the level of the European Union, decisions will not be taken maybe with the speed that many people expect, but this is the way Europe has always worked. And it has the ability to surprise us pleasantly, as it did last July when we agreed that we needed additional resources to tackle the problem, the economic implications of the pandemic. Last March, nobody would have placed any bet on the ability of the European Union to borrow as a supranational entity and to provide member states with grants to address the pandemic. And 4 months later, this is actually something that happened. So this is the way Europe works. We need to acknowledge that. And some of these topics, I'm sure, will be discussed at the level of the conference on Europe.
Señor Esquinas, vicepresidente
Mr. Esquinas, Vice President of the European Commission, about the future of Europe.
I think that we felt very alone in Europe in the last 5 years in defending a rules-based multilateral systems. Very alone. There were no strategic allies. There was no support. There was a wave of unilateralism and the clear withdrawal from many of our collective achievements of the previous 10 years. So we're delighted, as the Prime Minister said, that now the center of gravity of global governance comes again at the right place. The second, la segunda cuestión sobre la conferencia.
The second element about the conference on the future of Europe, this is an opportunity, but it's also a challenge. I wouldn't really like this conference to turn into some kind of a process where Brussels speaks with Brussels. We do not really need another Brussels with Brussels friendship. We really want to open up the debate in Europe, in the rural sphere, in the area outside of cities. To those that are looking for answers, they have questions, and we need answers, and we need the support not only of the governments but also of the parties, of the regional authorities, mayors. That's how I see the conference about the future of Europe. Mr. López-Istúriz. Microphone, please. You're turned off. Yeah, I totally share the message of my good friend, the Vice President of the European institution. Risk and opportunity. We need that discussion. We need to know where we want to head on to with this new European Union, understanding what our mistakes are. I am a member of the Foreign Affairs group, and I am fully aware of the fact that unanimity and foreign actions are mining our presence and our capacity of reaction in different world events that are currently happening. And this has to change, not only being or having a single voice in this type of decisions, but also that connection. This conference about the future of Europe cannot be as it was in the past. And Margaret talked about this before. Well, this convention about the future of Europe that we had, that we saw, it was rejected in referendums in France and in the Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. The future European Constitution was rejected, but you're absolutely right. This discussion comes out of the Brussels bubble. We will not reach anywhere otherwise. We need our people, our governments. We clearly need a clear support so that society as a whole in our member states participates fully. And in Spain, when that discussion arrives, the government, for one, unprecedentedly, shares with everyone, with all the political spectrum and with the opposition, how we really want to build from Spain this European future. We are reaching the end of a new online event of New Economia Forum, where we talked about Europe with the Prime Minister of our dear country, Greece, Mr. Mitsotakis, the President of the European Popular Party, Mr. Casado, Mr. López-Istúriz, and the Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Margaritis Skinas. We don't have time for more because the Prime Minister has to work on other topics. I would like to thank you on my own behalf and on behalf of our support, where we talked about Europe with the Prime Minister of our dear country, President of Greece, our technological partner. Thank you all for following the activities of New Economia Forum. I wish you a Vice President of the European Commission, good health and great hopes. Thank you. We don't have
Thank you very much
because the Prime Minister has to work on other topics.
See you in Athens.
Thank you on my own behalf and on behalf of our support, where we talked about Europe with the Prime Minister of our dear country, President of Greece.
Bueno, muchas gracias a todos.
Partner, thank you all for following
Gracias, José Luis.
Bueno, discursos muy largos. Y encima Pilar diciéndome que tenía que terminar.
Sí, no, ya.
Pero yo había quedado con el embajador de que él hablaba